What's the innovating there, Jim?
That's twice. It's patent developing,
Harassment.
It's a shame, I actually like you. Wish you'd stayed. It looks like you're not staying much longer.
That's good.
Joe's watching The Simpsons.
Badly gone.
Family Guy. There's volume at the top, Joe.
It's chuck it on the big
F7. No, F6. F6, F6.
I was only going to say that.
It's Ohio Gesundheits until 10 o'clock.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
That's what I got there.
Well, good morning, councillors, CEO, directors, ladies and gentlemen of the gallery. The traditional custodians of the land on which we are privileged to meet, the Yuwara people, represent a human link dating back over 2,000 generations as one of the oldest living cultures on the planet. We pay our respects to the Indigenous elders past and present and recognise their continuing connection to our land and our community. Councillors, I declare the meeting open. We don't have a priest today, so let us join together. Live streaming, yes. So used to it now. I draw the attention of the people in the public gallery to the notice on the top right of the screen there, and advise you that the councillors in this meeting are streamed live and recorded and published with the councillors' standing orders. And by attending a meeting of the council, you are consenting to your image and voice being recorded and published. And I'm required to tell you that you may be subject to legal action if your comments are deemed inappropriate or unacceptable. So there you go. And welcome, Pam, for your first meeting today.
Thank you.
If I go too fast for you, just tell the CEO and he'll rouse on me.
Thank you.
So let us seek a blessing on this meeting, councillors and staff. Lord, help us to be strong, for there is always much to be done. Help us to conduct ourselves in the spirit of truth and compassion. Guide our hearts and minds so that our actions may always be fair and reasonable. Bless our officers and staff and watch over our community, especially in this coming festive season. Amen.
Amen.
Nobody absent on council business. Councillor Cam has an apology for today's meeting. Condolences, councillors. Former Regional Director for Mackay for Transport and Main Roads, Ian Husband, passed away on the 30th of November. And so I seek the council's lead to offer our condolences to Ian's family. He served Mackay very, very well for a long time in his role as a director for TMR in Mackay, and before that, Main Roads. Are there any other condolences? No other condolences? Let's move on then. Conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest to declare today? None. 7.1 is the ordinary meeting minutes of the 27th of November, which have been circulated, and we've had nothing back in terms of those minutes. Councillor Casey moves their adoption. Councillor Payton seconds. All those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. No business arising out, no mayoral minutes. Let's move on then to the committee reports and recommendations for this month. The draft meeting of the draft minutes, sorry, the Visual Arts Advisory Committee have been circulated. Are there any questions attached to that? Councillor Englert, you move. Seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of highlights of the report. The Take Root Colony exhibition, the cardboard houses that were very popular at the exhibition at Art Space. The artists have donated a couple of pieces to Art Space, but what's interesting is that we've now converted one of our roads staff into a budding artist. They've taken the artworks and actually had them steamrolled by Mackay Regional Council's steamroller, so I expect that one of our workers is now a participant owns some of that property. So that's an interesting part of the report. Also, the reef catchments have put a public art application in, and local designer Jodie Connolly will print onto non-slip and some enviro signage installed around some of our stormwater drains, encouraging people not to put rubbish down the drains. And our manager of transport and drainage infrastructure and planning is all for it, so that looks like it's a go as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Correspondence and officers' reports. 11.1 is the Office of the Mayor and CEO monthly report for December. CEO.
Thank you, Worship. Morning, councillors. We've got a lot of reports today, so I'll be quick. No LTIs in November across the business. Our focus now with the hot weather, making sure our staff and community around heat management is a high priority for us. Our preparations for the storm and fire season are now complete, and I think I'd like to think we're in the best readiness position that we've been for a long time. Great to see stage 1 of Cameroo Park open in November, and the official opening of stage 2 is tomorrow, so it's great to see. All our major projects are on track with good weather, definitely helping us in that regard. And just quickly, even though she's leaving us in a month's time, it is our Director of Community and Client Services, who's obviously had enough of me already, is leaving us. So I'd just like to take this opportunity, and I am going to speak a heap later on, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to thank her personally on behalf of myself and staff, firstly for putting up with me for 4 years, but then she's done a fantastic job for us in the community. So we wish her and all her family all the best.
Thank you very much, CEO. Questions for the CEO on this report? Councillor Bonaventura.
You look at me automatically then, Your Worship. That's interesting.
I see your hand going up.
Firstly, I'd like to congratulate the CEO on the level of reporting of injuries, even if they are small. And I believe that sort of helps build an awareness about being mindful of the risk that's out there in any task we perform. So could I ask the CEO a question? Given the background on the following, and give me the background on the following minor incident, it says a minor bite from an unleashed dog while cleaning the barbecue. It appears to read as though the dog was cleaning the barbecue and our employee tried to take over the role. Is that how it happened, Your Worship?
CEO, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, the dog was on probation and was licking the barbecue, but the employee didn't think it was good enough. So there was a bit of a fracas. And thank you, Your Worship. I do have a more serious question though.
Thank you.
Just in relation to the Serena Sugarshed business analysis and just how we're progressing there, and is it taking a wider view of possible alternative structures?
Thank you, CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bonaventura. This one that I've taken too long on this one. No, the consultant has been acting involved. I believe the first draft will be coming out in the next couple of weeks to have a look at. The plan is to talk to council about that before end of January about where that's at. They have looked at different options. It wasn't an operational review, it was more about a strategic review about what the possibilities in future. And I know for a fact, I haven't seen the draft as yet, but I know I spoke with the consultant before the work started and then with the staff, and I'm very confident that what will come out of that is an overarching idea of different options. I think there was this particular one, there was always going to be a next step on once those options, whether internally we flesh some of that out and where we need some external help with that. So there'll be a 2-stage process, but the first report will be out in January.
Excellent. You believe we'll see that as councillors before the end of the term?
That's the plan.
Thank you.
Further question, Councillor Bonaventura?
One more, more so of a comment, Your Worship, just in relation to page 32 and the repairs from the Far North Queensland monsoon trough that came through. Look, residents are very excited about the repairs to the Boundary Creek Bridge along Doherty's Road. But just to comment, there's 3 words: it's speed, trucks, and residents, and the 3 don't mix that well. Just residents have sort of indicated that the trucks aren't slowing down when they meet a resident driving the other way. Like, it's pretty customary on gravel roads that as you meet someone the other way, you always slow down, and they are doing a job for us in repairing that, but just if maybe through the CEO they could make a note to just watch that.
Certainly pass that on.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Any further questions for the CEO? Somebody would like to move to the report's adoption, please. Councillor Payton, seconded by Councillor Nam. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another good report, plenty happening in the CEO's office there, obviously. It's great to see safety there, as Councillor Bonaventura did allude to, that all the smaller incidents are being reported so that we can make changes to make sure there isn't larger ones. So,
Thank you very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 11.2 is attendance of councillors at the 2019 Australian Tourism Awards. Councillor Cam has advised that she can no longer attend this event, and we put that up. Councillor May?
Yes, I would like to move that we lay this on the table and further information be required from the Department of Local Government in regards to what a councillor can and can't do when we're in caretaker mode.
Righto, so procedural motion that lays on the table until when, Councillor May?
Oh, it's in January. It should have an
Until the
answer by
January
January meeting.
I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.3, the Organisational Services Monthly Review for November. CEO.
Thank you, Worship. It's only been 2 weeks since this last report. So safety and budget is all tracking to plan. Due to the hot, dry weather, our attendance at our aquatic facilities are very, very high, which is great to see. Plenty of people using our pools. You will notice that our first contact resolution KPI is at 46%, which is below our target. We need to keep an eye on that. We believe that's partly due to the success of our automatic referrals when someone rings up to our My Water registrations and SMS on rate. So people will come in, wait, and then they'll say the automatic queue will say, well, you can also do this through this other mechanism. So that'll go down as we didn't meet the KPI, so we just need to keep an eye on that and monitor that. And all other major issues in this department are all on track.
Thanks, CEO. Questions for the CEO, Councillor Mann?
Yeah, electronic page 39, in regard to discussions with Microsoft in terms of information services officers. I know it was on the last report, and I just wondered if that's any further advanced.
CEO.
Yeah, it's only been a couple of weeks, so I'd have to get an update. I haven't heard any other major upgrade because it was 2 weeks since the last one, Councillor. So we'll send something around out of cycle if you like.
Okay, that would be
Oliver?
Yes, I do. In electronic page 42, external customer satisfaction, should this be blue given the result was 98%?
Yes, it should.
Yes.
Yes,
That's right.
So we'll change it. It should be blue.
Yes.
Sorry, it's been a mistake. It shouldn't be
Thank
green.
you.
It should be blue.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because it's such good work that
Yeah,
thank you.
you're doing. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
that changed.
Councillor Payton.
thank you, Worship. Just in relation to, there appears to be a lot of incidents at the Blue Boil Lagoon, just around, what may be causing this, and is there anything that can be put in place?
Okay, CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Payton. So the attendance figures for the last 3 months have been 30,000, 40,000, 42,000 for 3 months. I don't think we've ever seen attendances that high at our Blue Water Lagoon, which is fantastic. With that is that increased patronage, which I think is almost double at the same time last year. Obviously, we're getting a very, very small percentage of patrons that are doing the wrong thing. We monitor this every week at our senior group meeting. We're talking to the operator at all times and understanding each incident. It's actually a trend we're seeing across our libraries and other things as well. So each particular incident and what it is, we go through and work through what we should do, make sure the staff and the operators are all getting the assistance from us that they need. So it's very difficult to get a pattern. It's sort of a little bit random. We believe we're monitoring and tracking it. I also think we're reporting much more than we used to, and we're demanding that of our operators to make sure we understand what is going on. So I still think it's higher than what we had before, even though we're reporting more, but we are monitoring very closely.
Thanks. Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to the CEO on page 51 here, local spend. Unfortunately, it looks like it's the lowest I've seen it for a long, long time, 65.5%. Now, I know we had some big contracts that we've had outside, but I hope we're going to keep an eye on that so that we can get it back up to where we prefer it to be.
Yeah, it's just a timing issue in terms of which projects are paying what. So we've got some of their very large ones, e.g. Morani Sewage Treatment Plant and a few others that are outside contractors. So we could be paying $2 million, something like that, in a spend for a month of 5 or so, and it could be simply around that. So we're very confident with the tenders we're signing off on council that we are still getting a predominant local content, and it can just be a bit of a timing issue, but take your point, we keep a close eye on that.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Bella.
Just a quick question on General Lease Matters, page 65, fire management maintenance rifle range? Can we just have a little bit of a outline of what's going on there?
Certainly, CEO.
Yeah, so that's the one, that the rifle range, you remember, the one from Defence. So it's just making sure management through, they're still working to get their licence with police. It's taken a long time, which is outside our hands. This council agreed to give them lease over that land. So it's just, they're just monitoring. There's been a purchase of the private property just beside them as well. So I know that the Rifle Club's working closely with them as well, just making sure that there's the risk management around their activities is monitored. So we're not overly concerned about that. It's just we make sure we mention that in what we're working on through our department.
I spoke with Marty Idenhow just last week. They've had some very successful meetings with the new property owners of the properties on either side, which is the overshoot requirement, which was imposed by the Queensland Police earlier on. So that seems to have been resolved. They're now just waiting on Queensland Police to come back and do a further inspection. So it's moving, slowly, but it's moving. Further questions? Councillor Walker.
Thank you. The lead tenure Parliament plan for speech, are we progressing on that?
Yeah, we are. We're just working with the state around what the council's endorsed. It's a slow process. Obviously, it doesn't impact the operations there at all. We're in agreement with the state on how we're operating at the moment. So just working through that land tenure issue. So it's just an ongoing process with them, which is as per agreed with the council.
Councillor May.
Just in relation to page 55 and the staff vacancies, I notice there's a reasonable increase between last month and this month, and I suppose more of concern is those vacancies are in the ECI and the organisational services that probably got the highest amount of vacancies. Are we having recruitment problems? Are we feeling that at this moment, or what's the explanation?
Yeah, I'd probably say from 3 months ago, I think, which you may have raised an issue around 17% 3 months ago, if I recall. I actually think we're in a slightly better position we were 3 months ago. It's just the trend per month when we get movement in different departments. I think we mentioned we've brought in a new process at our weekly meetings with SLPT to monitor every role that hasn't been filled quickly in two goes. We just signed off this week with the Manager of People and Culture a new process to try different things in recruitment, including using other agencies to help us where we're stuck in some things. Some of those were actually ECI roles. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to be proactive in not just hitting a head against the wall where roles we can't fill. We're pretty confident we're not in danger. It is at a level that I'd like it to be a little bit better, but it's reflective of the market, Councillor. We're confident we're not dropping our service levels, which is really my concern. But we are actively, and the people and culture team do a great job, trying to find different ways where we do find those roles. The market's not giving us what we want. So happy to send around that latest thing we signed off on this week, if you like, on different strategy. Yeah. We signed off on SLPT, so we'll send that around for you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Would somebody, Councillor Bonventura?
Just page 39, we've done quite a few audits over a lot of our sites, and just checking how the Serena Sugar Shed stacked up in relation to its audit.
I presume you're referring to the volunteer audit, because that was the volunteer audits that were being referenced?
Yeah, national volunteering completed.
Yes, we did multiple audits across the sites, and all that was fine in terms of how we're meeting basic criteria. There was no issues there at all. We did it at every other area of the organisation as well.
Excellent.
And Councillor Bella?
Just one further question, same page 65, Optus rates non-payment ongoing. Just a bit of clarification on what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. There's two sites that we believe Optus are required to pay rates. They've got a different view from us on the agreements and what it says. So I think one of those agreements is quite clear that we believe they need to pay rates, and we're working with them. On the other one, the actual agreement that was signed some time ago is silent on it, so we're working through legally on that. So probably because we're in a discussion legally with them on that, I probably would rather not say too much, other than we are working on two sites that we're in dispute with them about rates.
Are we in a strong enforcement position in relation to, well, if you look at private land ownership and that sort of thing, strong enforcement position with regard to a company like this?
So it's all about what the agreement that was signed says. So it's all about the interpretation of the agreement. So our view is on one of those two, we believe it's quite clear. And on the second one, we also believe that we're in a strong position. It's probably fair to say maybe the other side doesn't think so. So therefore, there's a legal difference of opinion on interpretation of an agreement.
Further questions? Councillor Bonventura.
Just on page 66, I noticed we seem to be chasing up 21 leases leasees, should I say, for public liability insurance, so we're following a further 23. Is this normal, and what is the issue in this area? Why is it so far behind?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. It's definitely normal. I know when I first came in 4 years ago, the process of following up and making sure people have got their liability is an onerous task. We have a lot of leases. So that would be normal, that we're chasing up. So when they come to a certain term every year, we chase up to check that they've still got them valid, or the ones that have expired, so they've got to send us a copy. So that would be a typical number for us to be chasing. I can't remember the exact number of how many leases, it's a ridiculously high number. So we typically, every year we go and say, you need to, if it's expired, your previous one, you need to prove to us you've got public liability insurance. So chasing those volunteer groups, it takes us a bit of time to get that information back from them.
Okay.
All right, further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Walker. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, no LTIs for November, which is another really good result, and it's really pleasing to see the list of safety activities that department are actually undertaking, including attendance of officers at Regional Safety Forum with other councils. I think that's really, really important that we keep working together like that. Blue Water Lagoon, extremely well utilised during the month as the temperature increases, and I'm sure we're going to see utilisation at other pools increase as well as the hot weather continues. I did notice the Mark athletics numbers have dropped off a bit, but I believe that's because school is basically finished and there's no competitions really happening at the moment. External customer service KPIs were impressive again. First contact resolution didn't meet the KPI, but I believe the CEO has explained that. And it's good to see that people are now using our online services rather than wait on hold for our officers to assist them. External customer satisfaction again exceeded KPI, and I think that speaks volumes about our staff and the level of service that we offer. So I'm happy to move the report.
Very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 10.4, the strategic financial report for the month of November. CEO.
I'll be very quick, Your Honour. Your Honour.
30
Jeez,
days.
it's gone up pretty well.
Hang him.
Again, yes, that'd be good. So yeah, sorry, so it's just an update at the end of November. You'll see that we're favourable to the budget. It's a timing issue. This budget is tight this year, but we still remain confident we'll meet our forecast, both balance sheet and P&L. As you can see, it's favourable at the moment, mainly on timing. Still everything's on track as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks, CEO. Questions for the CEO on this report? Councillor May.
Just one on page 83 in relation to the key performance indicators, and I raised the question about the asset sustainability ratio, and I fully understand how that comes about, but the question is around the revised budget. We have it set at 99.5% in the green, and you can see from the report that all other indicators say that it's not going to be green. I'm just wondering why we've reported it like that.
CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor May. So it's all linked on our timing of major capital projects linked to renewals that are linked to that asset sustainability ratio. So you'll see it swing every month depending on, so even the underspend on the capital report of $3.5 million, some of those will be on asset renewal projects, so that'll swing the percentage down. But as long as by the end of the year that still meets that, that's why we're still. So right now, we're still saying comfortable all the projects in the capital and that are linked to the asset sustainability ratio are on track to be done. That's why the end of the year one is still comfortable. So we're saying that. So you will get very wide swings during the year because of, it could be a $2 million payment on an asset renewal that we didn't spend for the month, so it goes against it on the total spend. So that's why it swings.
Thank you.
Further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Payton. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor, CEO has said,
It's got 30 days.
it's going all over the place today.
Holiday mode.
The budget is favourable. It's with a variance of 2.3 million against the year-to-date budget. Capital delivery is at about 26% of the revised budget. Water consumption revenue is down, but I suspect this current weather might change that quite dramatically. And it's good to see the improved in-house collection methods and SMS reminders for the ratepayers is leading to a decrease in the rates in arrears. So it's good to see that working.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.5 is the legislative delegations. This is fairly straightforward. We're required to comply with the statutory obligations which is the reason this one's before you today. Are there questions? No questions? You have a question?
Just a quick one, Your Worship. Just in relation to in the legislative delegations in reference to the removal of Mackay levy special rates and charges for rural fire. Are they just trying to eliminate the word levy? We're not changing how we collect that at all. It's just now a special rate.
That's right.
Correct.
Eliminate the levy. Any other questions? Somebody would like to move the officer's recommendation be adopted for this one? Councillor Payton, seconded by Councillor Casey. Councillor Payton. Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.6 is a subordinate local law about the installation of advertising devices. Now, prior to us considering this one, councillors, we have a participation of a member of the public. Mr. Murray, welcome very much. Welcome to the council, and you've got 3 minutes. This is not a debate or a question and answer session, but it's 3 minutes for you to make your presentation prior to us considering this.
Mr. Mayor and councillors, thanks very much for the opportunity. I've prepared this statement on, and I'll leave it at that. Mackay is the only town, possibly in the world, where signs grow on wheels, trees, power poles, public safety fences, and public boundary fences. I've been corresponding with Mackay Regional Council since 2013 about non-compliant signs, in particular A-frames on public footpaths and visual traffic obstructions on roundabouts. I have no objections to temporary signs promoting events by charities and non-profit groups, conditional that they are secure from becoming a missile and are removed as soon as practical after the event and are not and do not obstruct traffic vision. Last November I went to Perth, Western Australia. What a vibrant, beautiful, clean city. And guess what? No visual pollution by way of signage in your face, other than that as approved by council on the main roads. I probably saw less signs in Western Australia in 2 weeks than I see in 1 day in Mackay. I lived at Mackay in September this year. I made a complaint to council about what I allege to be non-compliant signs, and there were 43 signs on fences from the roundabout at Mount Pleasant Shopping Centre, Malcolmson Street joints, to my home at Mackay. 43. On Monday, when I prepared this draft document, there were 9 signs on the fences on 3 adjoining homes on Mackay Road and Phillip Street, near the Mackay Road traffic lights. 1 sign, ladies and gentlemen, is as big as this boardroom table. Today, this was on Monday when I went there, today I went past and there's 12 signs there. And please, there's only 1 more sign left. 1 more proof, 1 more sign. I would suggest we have a problem. On the dual carriageway to Mackay, approximately 500 metres from the Havana Road Golf Links roundabout, there's a sign on a tree advertising the installation of home bores. And to the best of my knowledge, it's been there for 10 years and not entirely legible. There are there are leftover federal signs, 1 in Bloomsbury on the highway, 1 on a cluster of trees at Hay Point roundabout, and 2 on a tree next to bearing the name of Michelle Landry, next to the Serena Records highway. A couple of weeks ago, I sent an email to your local laws department naming the signs on Golf Links Road, Eagle Mount Road, Bedford Road and Glen Park Street. Just for the record, I checked this again yesterday and this is what I saw. Golf Links Road, 3 real estate directional signs on the street posts, 5 signs in the middle of the roundabout, 1 on a tree. Eagle Mount Road, 3 real estate directional signs on the footpath. On Bedford Road at the intersection where Eagle Mount Road back towards town, 2 real estate self-promotional signs, 1 auto service sign, 1 pest control sign, a tree trimming sign up a tree, 3 A-frames, 1 directional sign.
Mr. Murray, you've had 3.5 minutes now, so thank you. Thank you very much. Can I ask the CEO to make contact with you to get the rest of your information to council, and we'll do that in consideration of our local law that we're about to adopt. So we've had briefings on this, councillors. No questions have been submitted to the CEO on this agenda item. Are there questions around the table now? Somebody like to move then that the adoption of this local law? Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Paytham. Councillor Mann.
I don't think there's any need.
Okay, I'll put the motion then. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Righto. 11.7 is the Capital Works Monthly Review for November, CEO.
Thank you, Worship. Safety continues to run well in the department. Good job by the staff. The spend after 5 months of the financial year is just under 36 million, which is 91% of forecast. As you know, it's 36 million out of 130. 5 months in, looks like we're going to be under. We always have a higher spend later in the year as our projects go into the delivery phase. Of the 3.5 million that we're not spent to forecast, all are timing issues. So it's just a timing issue with the milestone payments. All those projects are continuing to be on track in terms of their finalised finish dates. Great to see over 5 million of contracts were approved in November, and all other major projects remain on track.
Questions for the CEO, Councillor Mann?
Electronic page 195 in regard to the dam at Greenmount with seepage issues. I wondered how close we were to that being resolved.
CEO.
Yeah, thank you. So you'll notice in that, it's just a comment. So the design team or the survey team in Capital is just helping out the community and lifestyle services on getting information that can go out for a consultant to have a look at what the options are, councillor. So when that information, because to go out, you need to give them some information. So the survey team's helping with some topographical information, and then the community and lifestyle will then go and get the consultant to give all the options, of which, as you know, we'll come back and work out what the extent of the issue is and what our options are. So we'll need to make that on track. I'll just chase down through the directorate, not the capital director of the community lifestyle, or where we plan to get that out in the new year. Thank you.
Further questions, Councillor May?
I've got two questions,
Certainly.
Your Worship. Just on page 200, in relation to the resurfacing reseal program, for the purposes of this particular section, can you please outline to me what is classified as a rural road?
Question, CEO.
Excellent question. I'm not sure if the director or capital can give more clarity on that.
Look, I'm happy for you to send something around if you need to get further
But
information.
it is a very good question, Director.
And I'll tell you why I raised the issue. In reading the report and the information provided, I just had the feeling that rural roads were roads outside of Mackay City, like Township of Serena. I'm really concerned that we're not classifying urban roads in Serena, Morani, all of the satellite towns as rural roads. Yeah, that's where my concern is coming from.
Okay.
Director. Through you, Your Worship. My understanding is, Councillor May, that certainly the urban centres are separate, so rural roads, anything outside the urban centre, so Morani, Serene would be included in that, but I haven't to clarify that.
Thank you. And
we get that sent around.
yeah, that'll be great. And my second question is in relation to the boardwalk down at Serena in the Brewers Park area there. When we did our council and community day in the southern area, we spoke about naming that walk. And I'm just wondering whether it's probably timely that perhaps we try and progress that if we're going to do something.
CEO?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think we've done anything on that. So we'll, I do apologise, I know you mentioned that. So we'll progress, and we've got a reasonable solid process about naming of assets. We've got a policy on it.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll bring that forward in the new year, if you like, in January, on understanding what the process might be. We might send it around our cycle, what we think the process should be. I can send that out.
Thank you.
So we can progress it.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Bonaventura?
Just on page 191 under underspends, I notice we're a little bit under on the Hospital Bridge fishing platform. I'm just wondering if that's falling behind or what is the expected finishing time? I might have got it wrong. I thought it wasn't that far away, but going past it the other day, we're a long way from it. So.
CEO?
No, we're definitely on track to finish it on time. It's just a milestone payment. It was 4.5 months total, and it was let in September. So that's due February.
Okay.
During February, and that was always the timeline. Then we gave it to CASA, which is the company name, and it's just a milestone payment timeline. Everything's going to track in terms of final delivery.
Thank you.
Councillor Casey?
No, so we're now finished the Milton Street Boundary Road intersection. Very, very unique. We should market that somehow. You know, when you drive along and the traffic lights are at eye height and the street lights are just about at door height, we all understand that, but you know, it's probably something unique that we can make something of it. You know, we're doing what we've got to do, and this is the result we have to come up with. So it's quite, you know, it's quite unique in that situation.
Thanks, Councillor Casey. We'll talk to our corporate comms team and see what they say. Thank you. Good observation, though. Further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption, please? Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Casey. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points. The designs are being finalised for footpath upgrades in River Nelson, Gordon and Halliday Bay, and I think that's great news. The Northview Park upgrade design has commenced. The stormwater upgrades are continuing. The rural culvert upgrade designs, a lot of those apparently are now completed, which is good. That's something that has sort of got behind, I think, over the years. I was interested in the new laser scanner that gives you a 3D picture inside manholes and pits and what have you. That sounds like an interesting new technology, and should make it a lot safer for our staff, I'd imagine. Not having to, I don't know, I suppose they'd have to get inside there at times. So I think that's a great bit of technology. It's good to see the concept design pricing finalised for the Mountain Wide project. The Brewers Park, as Councillor May said, is nearing completion. And that's going to be a great asset for the community down there. And the capital spend is at 91% of the year-to-date forecast. So a little bit behind, but I'm sure the director will have that up to scratch shortly.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Casey speaking for.
Thank you. Just following on from Councillor May and her query about the rural sealing and that, it's good to see that the asphalt surfacing program has been designs complete, going out for tender very shortly, and also the spray reseal program is also going out in 2 packages. So it's very good to see that, and I'll wait with anticipation to see how it all goes.
Thanks, Councillor Casey. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Let's move on. 11.8 is the Community and Client Services Monthly Review for November. CEO.
Thank you. Department safety performance and tracking all the budget after 5 months. Great to see over 90 new Australian citizens welcomed in November. It's a great number. And the council visited this not long ago, but over 315 visits to the Serena Youth Centre in November, which is fantastic and highlights the great work that's being done down there. The 30-year Matsura Citizens Tour, I won't speak too much because there's 3 councillors who have just come back yesterday on that. And you'll notice in the report, which has been the case for some time, the massive amount of internal and community work that's been undertaken in this department.
Thank you, CEO. Questions for the CEO on this report? Question from Councillor Engler.
On 258, I noticed with the non-active groups, we now see the midpoint volunteers have gone to 0. So my questioning around volunteer numbers, 2 years ago around Kamala took 6 months to get a 0 result on that. For the last 12 months I've been asking about Midge Point. Now I ask the question around Armstrong Beach. Are we sure that we have 4 active, current and competent volunteers at Armstrong Beach SES Group?
CEO.
I'll have to take it. That's information
we can't answer that around the table, but we can certainly follow it up.
Second question, around the SES operational capability. In the absence of, you know, if we no longer consider the 2013 report into, you know, outcomes for the SES, and we don't have a strategy right now, do we consider this SES operational capability an actual proper representation of capability, or do we just see it as these members are currently competent in these taskings, but doesn't actually reflect our actual ability to respond on 8 AM on a Tuesday?
I'm not sure whether I understand
in the absence of
the question. So, all we can do is consider the report in front of us.
The operational capability looks impressive just based on numbers, but what is our operational formula? What are our actual, who's going to turn up on the day is what I'm asking. So ultimately what I'm getting at is how long until we actually have a strategy that actually defines what our final numbers will be.
So,
yeah, that's part of the strategic working group, which involves the State Department as well. Unfortunately, the meeting that was going to be held, which we had an internal meeting on that, is now been put off due to the fires. So we're having another one, I think, in January, I think we've said. So that's on the list to work through with QFIS after their briefing to council on those key strategies, which includes what Councillor England's talking about. So it's definitely on the list. We haven't progressed it too far. We need the help from our state partners in this. But it's definitely one of those 4 or 5 major strategies that we've agreed we're working with them on.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have an idea that we might set a deadline to have that information? Like, do we need to put pressure on the state to get the information to us?
It was the intent of this meeting that's been cancelled due to the fires, but...
I agree. I don't think we've got a general view on it without any blame. It's taken all longer than we would like. So I think we have to discuss it. I would like to discuss that at the Strategic Directions Group meeting with both council and the other side to say, when do we set timelines? I think after the briefing we agree that the priorities and we agree that we're working on the right things. I don't think, in fact, I'm sure we can set key deadlines or timelines after that. So it's also the Strategic Director is running along in a trial, which we've agreed to extend. I think the general view is that can't stay a trial forever. Yeah. So I know personally I'm very keen. I'm pretty sure I speak on behalf of the Mackay Regional Council people on that committee that we'd like to have a clear direction going forward in 2020 on all this.
And hopefully the January meeting will be able to deliver that.
Yeah, my concern is I'm starting to see a centralised model, and my concern is if the Strategic Directions Group then comes back and says we actually prefer a decentralised model with the reduction in members at the outlying groups, it'll be harder, in my opinion, to get those back up and running if that is the view of the strategy.
Thanks, Councillor England. Further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Payton. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. It was really pleasing to see the Young People Services, which includes the First 5 Forever, held 64 programs for children aged 5 and under. That was over 2,200 attendees, and I think that's a fantastic result. It just shows that we are promoting the love of reading and books, in our children, which is really good. Heritage Collection team have had another busy month. They held a display at Dudley Denny City Library for the 85th anniversary of the first town planning scheme, and I believe Mackay was the first city to have a town planning scheme, and we were the first in Queensland, second in Australia. So that just shows we've always been quite progressive, haven't we, in regard to that. Community programs in partnership with RSDC delivered 4 workshops on governance to assist community organisations. Again, that's very valuable because we have volunteers running a lot of the community organisations, and it just helps them to know their governance obligations. So I think that's really important as well. And Councillor May and I attended a thank you event to acknowledge our RADF committee for the work they've done for the year and the assistance they've given us on assessing the grant applications. It was really good that Ros Campbell was able to bring along her puppet Dingo, which came about as a result of an RADF grant, where she travelled to the States and actually worked with the makers of puppets on Sesame Street to actually learn how to make puppets herself, and she's come back and continues to either make puppets for our community or show people how to do them. So it was a really good event, and I was really pleased to be able to attend.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I'd just like to mention our November Council and Community Day, which is in the Western Districts, and I'd like to thank Councillor Payton and Councillor Walker for their choice of sites for us to visit. Personally enjoyed the visit to the Pioneer Valley Hack and Pony Club. The fact that the history of there was the old Balnagown School, and its internal has maintained a lot of that character, so it was very good. Also our visit to the Finchhatton railway station, again, a lot of character in that, and it's good to see the Progress Association there has plans to do something with that. Also quite impressed with the progress at the Morani water recycling facility too, so it was good to catch up with that and see that at that stage, and just ask both Councillor Payton and Councillor Walker to get their act together so we get more people at our community catch-ups. Would be really great. Thank you.
Councillor Bonaventura. Councillor Bauer speaking for.
I just want to speak about a small part of the report here, and probably more tangible on the ground part. It's good to see that we're continuing with our wild dog and pig trapping and baiting. There has been a real upswing in activity from both of these due to the dry weather. They've centralised. Some of the, and I'm hearing more and more reports, and in actual fact the dogs are becoming more and more game and coming in closer, which will actually affect urban areas in the coming few weeks, the drier it gets. I would also like to suggest that we actually focus a little bit more. There are increasing reports of foxes, especially in the Hay Point area, which have the capacity to not only damage livestock and landowners, but also spread pests and damage the natural environment. And I don't care how cute they look playing on the beach, they are a feral pest and they need dealing with. And the other thing I would like our department to maybe look at some sort of cat control. We do have a large problem with feral cats. Once again, this is not a landowner issue, this is an issue for our native environment. We talk a lot about doing it, but I think about looking after our environment. I think it's time we actually put our money where our mouth is and started to actually do something. The take of native animals and bird species by cats is tremendous. And if you care to drive along some of the country roads of an evening, you would find it very difficult to travel any distance without seeing one crossing a road. So I'd just like to make mention of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ballard. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just really wanted a couple of things to draw councillors' attention to. They highly commended that the Swainsville School received in the 2019 Resilient Australia Awards in National Schools category. Great job done by the students there in doing that artwork. And you'll also see in the report that there's a number of art creations that have been part of the resilience program being happening up at Youngler as well in regards to the fires that we experienced 12 months ago. Given this time of the year, I think it's imperative that we mention the emergency management team that council has. They are not big in numbers. They conducted the Cyclone Saturday event at Canelands a couple of weeks ago. Great turnout. I think all of the bags were distributed. All of the information was passed upon. Given that we're coming into our supposedly wet season, which would be lovely if we got a little bit of rain, but I think, you know, in regards to fires and cyclone preparation, it is really important time of the year that we, as we move into the festive season, that we still bear in mind being ready for those events if they do occur.
Thanks, Councillor May. Other speakers? No other questions? Right. It's been moved by Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Payton. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.10 is the ECI Transport and Drainage Monthly Review. See?
We better do
I skipped waste.
waste and waste.
11.9 then. We can do that one. The ECI report for waste for November. Thanks very much, CEO.
Thank you. Safety and budget all on track at the end of November. You'll notice the tonnages across Hogan's Pocket, our recycling facility and green waste are all down. I will note that was until the 25th of November, so it is 1 week short in those data. So we'll see what happens in December. And just to comment, the three waste managers from Isaac, Whitsunday and Mackay are all working together under the Greater Whitsunday Council Manager CEO Group direction on a draft action plan on regional waste and resource recovery, which is what we spoke about at a briefing recently, so that's all ongoing as well.
Questions for the CEO on this report? Councillor Bonaventura.
Just page 278, Your Worship, in relation to bin requests. The annual monthly median for new bins is 28. And these are delivered to new households or business, is that correct?
Yeah.
Almost all of those 28 are new residential properties. Mostly the businesses use commercial contractors, but almost all that number is new residential properties, which is quite positive in terms of housing activity. So that's what almost all they are in that month, Councillor.
Yeah, and that's the comment I would like to make, Your Worship, is that if you look at that, it means that we're looking at around about 335 properties for the year if that trend continues, and I think that's just a positive indicator of the health of our region and a very, very good indicator in my opinion.
About spot on that number of new houses this year, which is very good. Best for the last 3 years, that's for sure. Any further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Page 279, just with our waste voucher usage, and there's a noticeably lower amount of waste coming through, of green waste coming through. And that obviously reflects our dry conditions at this stage. But I'd probably just like to ask the CEO, would he consider launching a campaign around cyclone tidy-ups? And this may just remind residents to be prepared, for a cyclone event, especially as we're going into the Christmas period. Might be a chance to get some publicity out there and get residents to do a bit of a clean-up and use those vouchers.
We have actually got so our 2 digital screens. If you happen to sit there for about half an hour and see all the screens roll over, they are clearly around emergency management, get ready and prepared. So we are doing some of that on those digital screens. In fact, we agreed this week to cut those number of slides on that right back to an emergency water conservation. I can't remember the other one, what we decided. So just to cut it back to get a clear message on 3 key things. So we'll have a look about whether there's anything else we can do, but we are definitely on the digital screens, which has about 45,000 cars per day going past those 2 screens. We are definitely got that on there, but we'll chase that up.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Casey.
Yes, it's good to see that they're not-for-profit organisations and their waste disposal is tracking about on par with what's going on. Not like it has done in previous years where it's been ahead of the table. So that's good to see.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Casey. Any further questions? Somebody like to move the reports of adoption? Councillor Payton moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good report here by the Waste Services. It's good to see the positive feedback on the snap and check your recyclables. It's working well. As Councillor Casey said, the non-for-profit organisations, that's tracking very well compared to previous that we'd seen. The waste education section, we're seeing a lot of schools coming through the MRF, and I've been in contact myself by one of the schools asking their senior students very interested in what's happening in the waste area, so it's great to see there. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing the draft action plan for our region, with the regional waste managers working together. So that should be good to see.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Now we'll do transport and drainage, 11.10, CEO.
Thank you. No LTIs in November. However, you'll notice a number of instances. I will say we've had 2 LTIs this year, and you'll notice that one of those in this department has had quite a lengthy off as one of our employees who slipped out of machinery and bumped their head. We just got an update. So they're progressing okay but slowly, and he'll actually be off until February now. So that will be, it's 1 LTI just shows that you can have an LTI that's got over 100 days. So we're working closely with that employee from Youngler. The department's very favourable to budget. However, we expect this to be a timing issue. We expect it to be on budget at the end of the year. With favourable weather conditions, our roadworks, drainage maintenance and road maintenance are all on track and running really well. It's been quite favourable. You will note, and I'm sure we've mentioned it before, that we have held off now for probably 1 or 2 months slashing on the sides of the roads from a fire risk point of view. And I'll just reiterate again that we may get some feedback that it looks a bit untidy, but the risk around creating a fire is far too high for us to take that on at this moment.
Questions for the CEO? Councillor May.
Just in relation to the Codhole drain outlet and the build-up of sand, do we anticipate that will be an ongoing maintenance problem for us?
CEO.
Yes. Sorry, I don't mean to be smart. Unfortunately, we do believe it. Look, it's all dependent on tides and events and so on. We do expect maybe once a year we'll have to. Maybe we get away from once a year, depending on the actual circumstances. And each year, the design that's been put in has allowed for concrete strips to make it easier to clean out. But we do believe that will be an ongoing issue for us. And again, depending on the frequency and that, you might be lucky you could go depending on the storm season and how much siltation we have to watch, but it will be an ongoing issue.
It's just, I was just amazed as to how much had actually built up since the completion of that project, and
We haven't tested it yet because we haven't
no,
had any rain.
we haven't had any rain. No.
Councillor Bonninger.
Just following on from that, annually you think, or more often than that?
We think annually at the moment, Council. Obviously, if we got a really bad event and we thought there was an issue where it wasn't doing its job, I find that would have to be a significant event where you get a massive siltation that you'd expect to impact the flooding back with the gates and everything. So we think annually, but we might be lucky where if we don't have an event, we could go longer than that. So we're probably going to factor it in annually and then keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Further questions? No further questions?
I just, basically a quick comment just in relation to our pothole repairs, and I think it's just another indicator of the dry. Like if you look at our monthly average for pothole repairs, it's 75, and for the month of November, we've probably done about 10 according to the graph. So it just shows you how dry we are.
It'll go up when it rains.
It certainly will.
Okay, so no further questions? Councillor Casey. Councillor Casey moves, seconded by Councillor Payne. Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. As the CEO has indicated, all the grading is continuing on very well, maintenance and that. Unfortunately, the dry is causing us a bit of a problem as well, because we have to get additional water trucks, because we have to cart water from longer distances to go to the job. But that's you've got to take the good with the bad. Our rollout of the aesthetic maintenance management system is going well. The staff are starting to embrace it, and we councillors have seen how it works and that as well. And from all indications, it's working very, very well. And it'll be once it's totally taken over into the whole group, it'll make our maintenance work a lot easier and a lot quicker and much, much more efficient. The Transport and Drainage Advisory Board had about 13 business cases there when we had the meeting a couple of weeks back, and most of those business cases were endorsed. A couple were sent back for more information, but it's up for the budget process now to see if those business cases become reality. But there is a business case there done for it now, and it's all okay, so it's up to the CEO to get the money for it now for us. But apart from that, a very good report, and I know all our guys, with the way that's been so hot lately, they're certainly looking forward to Christmas. They really enjoyed the awards night, awards afternoon, the other afternoon, to be in the cool instead of out in the heat. But they have done a fantastic job, and I'd just like to pass on congratulations from the council to all the outdoor staff that have done a magnificent job for the whole year.
Thanks, Councillor Casey. Are there other speakers? You're speaking.
On the motion, Your Worship.
Obviously. Just
to follow up from Councillor Casey in relation to unsealed road maintenance, I just think reading the graph where we've done over 16 kilometres of roadside drainage, it's probably one of those areas that I have been quite critical over the years, that I believe we do the road and forget to do the drainage. But to see that 16 kilometres of drainage, and having driven past several places where we've actually done it and done a damn good job, very impressed, and just want to pass on that I have quite a few compliments from residents in relation to that, so they can see the improvements quite substantially. So, well done.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Other speakers? Councillor Butler speaking for.
Yeah, both Councillor Casey and Councillor Bonaventura stole part of the thunder on this. Short and sweet, I do appreciate the difficulties of extra cartage and sourcing of water, having done work on properties with doing that sort of thing. However, I do really appreciate the work on the roads, and echoing Councillor Bonaventura, there's an old saying we always used to use, you know, your road's only as good as the drain beside it. So it's wonderful to see. The other thing is the hold on slashing. I think that's a tremendous thing. I realise the amount of negative comments we get when things aren't in perfectly aesthetically pleasing order from people that don't understand the risks. But having seen fires start from slashes, from trains going past, from things that you wouldn't actually expect to start a fire, I think it's a very responsible move, and I commend council on having done it.
Thanks, Councillor Butler. Are there other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thanks. ECI now for water. CEO.
The department continues an excellent safety performance they've had for a long time. They're doing a great job. The budget is not for a full month, it's 1 week short, so while all favourable to date, we continue to closely monitor for the full year. I think Councillor Walker mentioned that our first half of the year from a water usage point of view was unfavourable, but we'll see what happens now when it's dry. Except for Peter Faust Dam and Middle Creek Dam, all our actual water reservoirs and dams are all in quite full. That said, we continue our education process on the conservative serving water. Yeah, that thing. And we still do that even though our water levels, because we all know if we don't get a wet season that we could be in trouble. So, and all other key indicators are tracking as planned in the department for the year.
Thank you, CEO. Questions for the CEO around this report, Councillor Payton?
Thank you, Rush. Just around the lab analysis, the numbers look like they've dropped down. That may be due to the short 1 week, but I'm just wondering how we're going with the marketing side of that, you know, the expansion.
Yes, certainly, CEO.
I have the draft the draft business plan on my desk. That's come through from the department, so we're just having a review internally of that first, and then we plan to share that around on. So it's broken into a couple of parts. One is making sure the operational structure is linked to. We had a review done by an external pages to make sure our structures are right in terms of the most efficient way to run our laboratories. So that's one part which will be an operational issue. Just to clarify, that's not in any way reducing the number of people who work for us. It's just about efficient use of that department, of that lab. And then we have a business case about future opportunities. So we have now the draft. I have the draft. It's stuck with me. So I just need, it's quite a large document, so we just need to read through that and understand and make sure answer questions. So we'll have that sorted in the new year, early in the new year.
Well done. Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura.
Your Worship, just in the October meeting, I did speak about my disappointment regarding the ongoing dispute on the handover of our waste recycling facilities from Downer to Council. Just want to know if that's progressed any further or whether that should be settled. We're getting close to Christmas. It's been 6 months. So it seems to be, just like to know where we're at.
You're going to be disappointed. So the directors had a mediation, got cancelled. There's some new issues being raised by the other side. So if anything, I'd say we've gone backwards. So look, there's legal processes in the contract. I know I think you referenced it should be as easy as selling a house. So I made a comment that maybe I should give you the hundreds of pages of documents to show you that it's not. But that said, we haven't made progress. So what we're doing is, we've had to do it before. It's only one part of the whole agreement. We need to be conscious it's one couple of parts left now. But the CEOs have actually had to have meetings on other issues at CEO level, and we've sorted through those. It looks like, based on the director's feedback to me, that we may have to escalate to the CEO level in January again, where I sit down and we try to sort through the final couple of things, but we're not making great progress in the last month.
Your Worship, I assume we will continue to push that. Right,
absolutely, the CEO is, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you should take great confidence in that we are doing what we can through the CEO. I mean, but the legal issues are the legal issues, and we have to work through them. So, all right. Are there further questions, Councillor Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. The water pressure in Marion, I thought we'd solved that problem a couple of years ago, but it appears as though it seems to be coming back again. Is there something happening different, or I thought we'd actually solved that?
Yeah, CEO.
I'm not sure the problem's back. I think they're getting low water pressure because the usage of some properties is thousands of litres per day per person. So what I've been told by staff is the infrastructure we've had is still the same as we had previously, where the pressure was okay. It's about usage now for some properties. So we're working through an education process on those properties where the usage is extremely high, to make sure that they understand that at the end of the day, it's a pipe with a certain pressure. If there's a lot of usage out of it, it will drop. So there's been nothing, I've been told, that the infrastructure has dropped off in its performance or anything else, that where it was going okay. It's just about usage. And if you look at the graph, which I'm sure you have, the Marion area water usage is through the roof in terms of target. We understand that with these conditions, but that we believe that's the issue at the moment. So I know there's been some comments about water pressure. We're very confident it's not to do with the infrastructure capability, it's to do with usage.
Yeah, exactly the issue that the CEO referenced. So the pressure's coming at the time when we're having peak water usage. We've obviously, through the My Water system, been able to have a look at that usage, and it's all outdoor usage. There's a number of residents using very large amounts of water. So we've taken a proactive approach of writing to all residents, and now the key sort of 40 or 50 users to try and alert them to the fact and their usage and bring that down. So we're just seeing it in those peak periods of times when everyone's outdoor water usage. So generally the system's been fine before that, so it's only more a recent issue around dry weather and higher usage.
No, okay. Further questions for the CEO? Councillor May.
Given that we're talking about water usage, I noticed that we issued a press release through the last month in regards to the water usage, and we actually named streets of residents that were utilising over and above, the normal requirements that, that we've seen across the other areas of council. I just have concerns of actually naming streets, and did we take an approach of writing to those residents first before we publicly went and named streets in press release?
Yeah, Treat.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Councillor. I think, we need to somehow get our message across and do that. And I think, I think that was the first time we've ever sort of gone down to a specific level. We've spoken, the Director and I and Chief Operating Officer, about that, and I think we need to be very careful about, the name and shame can be effective at times. We've got to be very, very careful around that. That said, we obviously have, Councillor Walker's just raised an issue where other people are getting lower pressure, and then it's our problem as well. So we need to make sure we manage all that. I think our strategy around how we manage that, we need to just revisit. That was probably the first time we've done it that way. We've talked about, we probably won't do it that way again. We just need to find ways to get the message across without, because it's very, the written word can be interpreted differently, and if people think that someone's having a go at something when that's not the intent, it's very hard to pull back from that once it's done.
And I raise it out of concern that other people may take, take offence to the people that are in, could create problems within the community, unrest within the community, whereas I would have thought that council has a responsibility if you're excessively using water that we write to you individually and outline that. Would be a much, my preferred way to have approached it.
Yep, and I think that has been addressed.
Agree.
Councillor Bella?
I'd just like to probably put something there that might, just another thing to consider. We're talking about it being wrong to name those streets. We're not actually naming the individual, but we've been quite happily naming Marion for quite a great deal of time. So, if we're going to not name streets, why are we naming Marion? You can apply that on a macro level rather than a micro level. It still remains that we have people in those streets using a ridiculous amount of water. I've been involved in it for a while in trying to limit this. It shows a complete lack of respect for other people in the community. And if you're not one that's not doing it, well, you've got nothing to worry about. But I would just say that why then adopting the approach that we've just been speaking about? Why then are we basically pointing a finger at the whole of Marion rather than the bits that are causing the problem? If we're not going to name the street or whatever, maybe we don't name the area. I just think we've got to be a little bit realistic about this. It's not a small amount of water. It's a large amount, and it is actually causing problems for other people in the area. We live in a community.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bella. Councillor Bonaventura?
Your Worship, I'd like to strongly disagree with Councillor Bella. I think Marion is a separate water treatment area, same as Serena, same as Mackay, so I disagree. But I certainly agree with Councillor May. We should not be going down streets, and I'm pleased to see the CEO is doing that, because it basically pits people against people in those neighbourhoods. And I personally have had a call from a rather upset resident who is in one of those streets, and was very annoyed the fact that her personal water use is well under control, and she can check that via my H2O, but it just puts that insinuation out there that she is one of the people that are using excess amount of water. So thank you for rectifying it, CEO, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption, please. Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Walker. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. No lost time to injury again, which was really pleasing, and none have been recorded for the financial year to date. So again, staff focus on safety is excellent. Budget is all tracking well with current operating results under budget, so that's good news as well. 51 plumbing applications received for the month, and the approval turnaround time of 3 days, which is well underneath the 5-day target. So that's also really good to see. 335 new My H2O registrations, again, really good result. And I think it shows that we're proactively marketing that and trying to get as many people as possible. The total registrations are now 15,099, which is really good. So getting close to the target for the year. And total number of tests performed by the lab was 21,876. So again, a good result given that the cut-off was earlier for the month.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers?
I just wish, following on from Councillor Mann, I suppose I have to mention that I'm also very impressed with the growth of numbers in the My H2O, and I have to admit that I have sort of had a dig at Councillor Bella on in relation to improving those numbers, but 335 is an excellent result, and we're well and truly on track for achieving our goal.
Absolutely. Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Councillor Bella.
Once again, I would say that I think what my H2O is just a wonderful thing, and I repeat myself, it saved us a considerable amount of water at my daughter's premises in Serena. But just to highlight regarding the questions that Councillor Walker asked, and the staff answered quite well, water usage, we're looking at keeping it under 200 litres per person per day. Now, Mackay has been particularly good throughout the region in getting it, and it's well below that 200 litres, except for some premises that are actually using up around the 2,000 litres per day. That's 2 IBC pods per day, which is affecting not only other residents as far as pressure goes, but that sort of thing can put pressure on our plant's ability, and ultimately may bring forward, if usage goes up, if they see that high usage is the norm again, it will bring forward a need for a treatment plant, which will be of quite a great cost impact to every ratepayer in the region. So once again, I just encourage people, we are in a drought. I think it's wonderful that the staff through the CEO have already talked about water restrictions. While we still have plenty of water, we don't know what sort of wet season we're going to get. So it is a good thing that we're looking forward to, more than just one season.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.12, speaking of water. Water restrictions policy. This is fairly straightforward, this one. Are there any questions on this particular policy that we're seeking to endorse? No questions. Would somebody like to move the adoption of this policy? Councillor Payton moves. Councillor Walker seconds. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Worship. Like you said, very straightforward. So it definitely comes in behind our water report, but this spells out exactly what the requirements are, so everybody knows where we're at. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Payton. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.15, the attendance of the of staff at the 30th annual Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting. Right. Are there any questions on this? Pretty well straightforward paper. Somebody like to move? Councillor Englert moves. Councillor May seconds. Councillor Englert.
I was asking a question there.
You're too slow, Councillor Englert.
Defer to any other councillors, no? Look, it's, to get, this is, so we're sending an officer with, the question was around, have we decided how we're going to do it yet? There's been a lot of talk about taking the water on as carry-on luggage. I'm interested to know how that's going to get through LAX as, a liquid container. No, it's a great opportunity, people might look at this as an expense going away to receive, a possible trophy, but reputationally for us, it's another little peg in the big idea of livability for this region, and to have the best tasting water in the country and in Queensland 2 years in a row is really good, and to have representation overseas and with the rest of the world is a real good opportunity for us. So I definitely believe that we should be doing this.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Yeah, it's interesting.
Could I get that answer to that question at some point?
Yeah. We'll circulate it.
Not allowed to now. Missed it.
Is there a speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor May speaking for.
I would just like to endorse Councillor Englert's comments that this is a great opportunity for Mackay Regional Council to be on the international stage. People might think that tasting water is just a gimmick or whatever, but it is really important, and it does lead to us having exposure to a whole range of different opportunities that could come our way from just being participants in that conference. And I also think it sends a very good message to our staff that they have done a great job in the treatment of the water at the Marion plant in particular, in regards to having the best tasting water now in Australia and hopefully in the world.
Would be nice, wouldn't it? Thank you very much, Councillor May. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. The Development Services Monthly Review for November, CEO.
Thank you, Worship. Another good report with a lot of work going on. Safety and the budget are all on track for November. just a comment, we talked about our civil ops teams and roadworks. Our parks team are doing a great job, even though the grass isn't growing too hard. They're keeping all our parks and all our trees and so on in great shape. They're doing a great job. Great to see the cumulative number of development assessment applications for 2019 calendar year are the highest for the last 4 years, which is indicative of the activity, and all other major initiatives and projects are all tracking to plan.
Questions for the CEO? Councillor Bonaventura.
Page 343, Your Worship, just in relation to our flood studies from Cyclone Debbie. Do we know how the public consultation went in November? Did we get a reasonable attendance at those?
CEO, do you know?
I can. Our officer gave our LDMG an update this week on those flood studies. The turnout was pretty good. I won't be able to give you exact numbers. No. There was some, so with the recent legal finding in the southeast about the dam operations, my understanding was there was, particularly out in the Eaton area, there was a little bit of emotion come up around that, linked to that event in 2018 with Debbie, Debbie. So there was a few questions around that and what that impact was of that decision down there about the operations of the dams. But apart from that, the rest of the flood study and the information that's been provided was very well received at LDMG, and also my understanding is back from the public as well.
Excellent, thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other questions? Would somebody like to move the reports of adoption? Councillor England. Is that a question, Councillor England?
I don't care anymore. Yeah, I'll do it.
Councillor England moves, Councillor Mann seconds, Councillor England.
Thank you, Your Worship. A busy month for development services. Just a couple of points. Application approved for operational works on 18 residential lots in Endergrove, which is a good thing, and an application for civil works has been put in for further 47 residential lots in Rural View. And as I said, a busy time in the last month. The department's seen the adoption through Council of the Regional Event Strategy, the Economic Development Strategy, and the Mountain Bike Strategy has been advanced to detailed design. The Facilitating Development Policy was also adopted last month, and we've seen the Morenni Master Plan, and that's exciting way forward for the people of that area. And just to mention, don't forget this Friday we've got Christmas in the Gardens at Botanical Gardens.
Thanks, Councillor England. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Confirmation, Your Worship. I'd just like to make comment on the 8 operational works approvals for November, which totalled approximately $3.5 million. And this again points to our strengthening economy. When you consider, and in the graph it said, for 2016, from January through to November to the same period as now, our total works was only $5 million. So, Your Worship, I think this shows very clearly that we're in a positive indicator for our region. So, very happy to support the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Are there other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 1.15 is the local coastal plan for McEwen's Beach. There's been many briefings on this. We've had community consultations. There's no questions come back to the CEO for this agenda item. Are there questions at all from councillors now? No questions. Would somebody like to move then the adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor England. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. This is another plan of the many that Council has adopted since our term in Council. We've been slowly working our way through our 31 odd beaches that we have in the coastline. McEwen's Beach was well supported at the community consultation with some 30 odd people turning up, which was great. Their comments where we've been able to incorporate those changes into the plan have been made. I think the main outcome of this, there's been 3 designated zones in the McEwen's Beach area, and we're looking at interpretive signage, weed control, fencing, shoreline management, and encouraging the residents there to become involved in the shoreline management as well and the monitoring of that. So I think all in all, a good result for the local coastal plan for McEwen's Beach.
Yes, thanks very much, Councillor May. Speaker against. Any other speakers? That community is a very positive community in terms of their interaction with the council staff, the development of this particular coastal plan, so it's been a good outcome. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. 11.16. This is facilitating development in the Mackay region. CEO, do you wish to speak to this?
Just very quickly, it's all hopefully self-explanatory as per the policy. This one is a little bit different. It is caravan park and food and drink outlet, it was a change from when it was done the lap state, and you'll see it's explaining there why it's changed through the policy. So as I say, it's a bit different to one that's coming forward. It's almost one that's been done, but hopefully the paper's self-explanatory.
Are there questions? Councillor Mann?
Yeah, I just was wanting clarification that the applicant isn't asking for a second concession in relation to this development, given that they previously had a concession in 2016.
No, so yeah.
No, it's just been, I'll say, an upgraded one as the policy's changed, councillor.
Okay, that's fine.
Further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Englert moves, Councillor Bonaventura seconds. Councillor Englert?
Thank you, Worship. This is a great little rural tourism development at Oakenden, providing cabins, camping amenities, bar, dining for travelling motorcyclists, with 500,000 visitors to the region, specifically here on the VFR and leisure market. This is exactly the sort of business that we're lacking in the region to really take advantage of those people visiting the area, actually giving them something to do in which they're spending money locally. So it's a great addition to our emerging tourism business development.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Englert. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura.
I'd just like to follow on from Councillor Englert. You know, like these small-scale rural tourism are the sort of developments we need to support. Like it's going to have cabins and camping. But some of the areas it's covering, it'll be a specialised niche in the concept which is not currently provided. Business will attract adventure motorcycle riders to Mackay area who will be encouraged to use the Adventure Riders Ranch as a base and then visit attractions from there. You know, the business provide travellers with food, accommodation, camping. It's got a licensed bar, access to computers, Wi-Fi, etc. This is an excellent example of what our facilitating development program should be supporting. So wholeheartedly support it, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Let's move on to 11.17, which is another facilitating development policy. This is minor. It's a childcare centre expansion. It's only minor request. Are there any questions? Councillor May moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Englert seconds. Councillor May.
It's a good development. It sees the increase in the childcare facilities, particularly in the rural view area, and as we know from our growth modelling, in that the increase in young families in that particular area is growing, so the need is definitely there. So.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. 11.18 is the another planning scheme amendment for the live document. And once again, there's been no questions forwarded to us on this one. It's pretty well straightforward. So any other questions around the table? Somebody like to move? Councillor Englert moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. As you said, it's largely administration amendments. There's no significant change to the scheme. It's just the changes of headers and footers and very basic stuff.
Yep, thank you very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. 11.19 is another planning scheme administrative amendment. Once again, straightforward. We need to just adopt these amendments as they come forward for this living document that is our planning scheme. Are there any questions? No further questions. Can I ask someone to move? Councillor Englert moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor Englert.
As before, Your Worship.
Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Let's move on now to receipt of petitions. We have a petition report of a request for an upgrade of narrow strips of bitumen at Marwood Road, Sunnyside, Belvera, and we have public participation on this. Oh, okay. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes. And this is not a question and answer nor a debate situation, but you've got 3 minutes to make your presentation to council before we consider this.
Well, good morning to you all. I'm a resident of down the end of Marwood Road, and I'm glad to hear people talk about the motorcycle you just spoke about a minute ago. I've lived down Marwood Road for 30 years, and never complained to the council about Marwood Road. I've done a lot under my breath, but until I got hit on my motorbike 2 weeks ago in the shed, pretty severely. The bone was chipped. They wanted to put me in plaster and kick me out of the small work that I do. I said, no, that's not happening. So I've continued for a week, just hobbling around. Still gets minor pain from the issue. But what I've asked the council to do is not resurface the whole road right across. I just want to do the edges where you're putting more dirt and more rocks every year. That's what's happening. The bitumen's getting smaller and the rocks and the dirt are getting bigger. So all I ask you to do is please put some edges on the road. That's all I'm asking.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Brits. Thank you. All right, councillors, with this petition, if there's no questions around this petition, we receive it and refer it to the CEO for a report to be prepared to council. Councillor May moves, Councillor Casey seconds. Councillor May?
Councillor.
Okay. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Thank you. No tenders to consider. Consideration of notified motions. We have a notified motion from Councillor Ballard. Councillor Ballard.
I brought this forward. I'd like to formalise the process of receiving reports from councillors that go away to seminars, workshops and conferences. If these trips are for the gathering of information, I think that information should be provided in a timely and cogent fashion. I think this just puts a little bit more rigour around the process. We've had some excellent reports. There are also some that probably could be improved, and I just think this goes just another step in trying to basically give the ratepayer value for money.
Okay, so thanks, Councillor Ballard. I should have got a second before that, but
Sorry.
this is somebody, you obviously moved it, and that was your moving speech. Councillor Bonaventure, a second. Thanks, Councillor Ballard. Is there anything else that you needed to say on that one? Is there a speaker against? Are there other speakers? There's no other speakers. I mean, I don't have a particular problem with this motion. I think it's a good intent. Just we've only got a couple of months ago to this council. It would be a very good policy initiative for a new council. But I'll put the motion then. Those in favour? Those against? The motion's lost. Thank you.
Can we just do 4?
Can we do 4? Those 4? Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. Let's move on then. Let me find my place first of all. Okay, public participation. Now we have one, Mr. Thompson. There you are. You've attended a lot of meetings for this council over the last 4 years, and it's nice to have your public participation today. So I don't probably need to explain to you about the 3 minutes.
I'm not going to leave 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for everyone listening. My primary concern has become around the 5G emissions issue. I've been doing a lot of research into it and had a lot of consultations with various people about it, and it does seem to be as dangerous as what it appears. I know I'm not allowed to ask questions and there's no interaction, but my question was going to be, has council actually looked into it at all on any level? But the statement I was going to make is, if so, or even if not, there is a public meeting tomorrow, this afternoon at 5 o'clock, just across the road from the chambers here at Dave Monk's Tattoo Studio. There is a lot of people going to be attending, and I thought maybe someone from council might like to come and at least give their ideas about it, or if indeed you have already discussed it and any solutions or whatever you've come up with.
Thanks very much, Mr. Thompson. Thank you. All right. Might just leave it for you to interact. Thank you. Councillors, there's several confidential reports.
Late business.
Oh, late business. Jeez.
Must be the jet lag.
I'm just getting ahead of myself today. Okay, late business, right. And I want to speak in late business too. So. Okay, late business, councillors. Councillor Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I suspect we're going to speak about the same thing, but I just wanted to speak about the trip to Matsura that we were fortunate enough to go on. So yourself and Councillor May and a contingent of 24 people recently attended Matsura, and it was very humbling and overwhelming. The welcome that we received on a cold Friday afternoon, where we had 400 people come out to welcome us, red carpet rolled out for us, and it just shows the level of passion and commitment the residents of Matsura have towards this relationship. I enjoyed the whole trip, the whole cultural exchange. They welcomed us into their homes and their hearts, and that was very, very obvious. And I'm so pleased that I was able to attend.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Further late business, Councillor May.
And I suspect we're speaking about the same thing, but I would just like to state for the public record that Councillor Mann and myself paid our own way to go on the Citizens Tour. And again, it was very humbling to be able to be there for the 30th anniversary of our relationship with Matsura. The people of the community, the Mayor and the Council as a whole certainly made us feel very welcome. The exchange of cultural heritage and cultural giving was just great, and even the trip to the power station was very enlightening, and I just think that the whole thing, I know that in the past we've had lots of discussions around that relationship and how we keep it moving forward. Certainly one of those things that I think after being there and experiencing for myself, that it's certainly something that we need to continue to work on and to be part of. It's just a great experience, and to see what they have done in recognition of the sister city relationship with the opening of a new park, sister park, is just absolutely fantastic. So I again thank the citizens and the Council of Matsura for their hospitality.
Sure. Thank you very much, Councillor May. It certainly was, I'm very pleased that I had the opportunity to go and represent Council. There were several official occasions that required representation, and quite a number of public addresses. My Japanese got a little bit better towards the end of it. But of course, as Councillor May has said, the Matsura City Council, and it's not a big community we're talking about here, but the Matsura City Council has dedicated a park with a plinth about half the size of this boardroom table that says Mackay Regional Council in the middle of the park. The park's about a similar size to our front lawn, so you can see what sort of effort they've gone into. And it's been under construction for quite some time. There's a children's playground at one end of it, which is similar to the playground that we have at Queen's Park. So it shows you the amount of dollars that have gone into it. But that playground is shaped as a platypus. And so really they've gone to an immense amount of trouble to actually cement the dedication to our region for the 30th year. So not only are all the manhole covers now saying Mackay and Matsura in the city area, they now have a park about 5 minutes walk from the town hall that has a tremendous dedication to the Mackay region through a number of signs and through all the sorts of things that are embedded in the ground, which are our local animals here. So it's we were quite humbled, and I got the occasion to speak at the official ceremony in the entertainment centre, and again at the official dinner that followed. So it was a great representation for our community to have people, not just councillors, but the member for Mackay and her husband. They were on the tour. We had a representative paid for by Dalrymple Bay Coal on the tour as well, and so we had good representation. We had Mark Leyland, who was the first chair of the Mackay Matsura Community Committee. So he's now working in Brisbane, former deputy town clerk here at Mackay, and he attended as well. So it was a great representation for our community. And I thank the council for allowing me the opportunity to go and represent you there, which was very, very good. Is there further late business? Councillor Bella.
Saturday night saw the annual Kamala Christmas Fair run by the Kamala Progress Association, the members of which I find are just unbelievably active and get a lot of things done. Wonderful night. They were very appreciative and thanked myself and Councillor Bonaventura a number of times for the grant which provided the lighting facilities there, the 2 poles. It's what I believe grants should be for. They're not one-off events. Those poles will enhance and facilitate other events into the future. They just made it wonderful. Nowhere near as many generators going as have gone in the past. We did develop a new sport, speed handwheel ticket selling. We didn't do too badly, but the girls did actually win two rounds to 1. On another and more sober issue, there have been a number of fires in the region. We did have one a couple of nights ago that was definitely deliberately lit. There are others that are, I believe, the result of stupidity in this sort of weather. Fires being lit for campfires despite a total fire ban. I just encourage everyone to take notice of that. We had the deliberately lit one the night before last, and then we had one down there again last night from the campfire that got away, both of which could have been very, very ordinary. I've got to commend, in both situations, Andrew Hawley sent down the helicopter with the bag. In the Mount Christian fire, it was wonderful dumping water slowed enough for us to get dozers and things around to make a break. In the Ilbilby fire, it actually enabled us to get up, or a couple of guys to get up and see where the fire was, and then we could figure out where we were going to put containment lines. And in actual fact, in Proserpine, where they had a tree that was piping, it was impossible to get anyone up there in any sort of time. It would have been quite unsafe. The actual pilot managed to drop his bag of water down the pipe of the tree and completely extinguish it. Local guy, tremendous work. And just to give people an example, there have been some concerns about the possibility of fires at Slade Point Reserve. In reference to that, an area such as that, that actually used to run about 100 cattle. Cattle eat approximately 10 kilos a day. That's a tonne of feed a day, 365 tonne a year. Adding up year in, year out. Some breaks down, but the rest stays there until such time as we get a fire. Now, not only are those fires dangerous to people living around that, but they also cause fires that actually do damage the natural environment. You know, those grasses, those introduced species must be managed, and they must be managed by effective control, hazard reduction. I'm very heartened to see that Council is actually developing a policy and an implementation of hazard reduction on Council land. So just an awareness thing, and my congratulations go to all of the guys that attend to those fires. And I'd just like to say that the blue cars that we're supposed to have did no good at all.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. While you were over in Matsura, we had the awards for the staff, and it was a bit coincidental. I had one of the staff members ask me, "We got any water coolers in our precinct here?" And I had to sit down and think, and I thought, I had to come up with a negative. No. He said, "Oh, maybe we should think about it." And strangely enough, I was walking back after the thing, and I run across two Japanese tourists, and they said, "Oh, is there anywhere where we can get a drink of water around here?" And I said, "Don't drink from the fountain." So maybe it's probably something we should look at. We've got these water bubblers and that around other places. We get one in our precinct here because we are promoting our precinct, and we have people coming. We have the art space, the MECC, the library down here. So maybe we can look at putting one in the precinct area.
I think there is one in the JCC foyer area around where the toilets, where you walk into the toilets.
You can get water there.
There's
You're
a water
talking
fountain.
about a public one.
Public, yes.
Yeah.
And public, not inside.
Very good.
Yeah.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the last couple of weeks, I attended a couple of community events, and I'd like to relay on thanks to Council from the EDCA group up at Youngler with their Festival of Small Halls. Also the Finch Hatton Progress Association with their community Christmas party that was put together also with the RSL and donations going onto the rescue helicopter. Also was out at Dow's Creek Hall with the Dow's Creek community. They were very thankful for the Christmas fund that they received. It all helps to get the community together and get to know each other. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Payton. Councillor Bonventura.
I've got several, Your Worship. Can I start firstly by thanking the Director for Community and Client Services, Bridget. Your door has always been open, and I've really appreciated your support over the many years, in particular as my role as Chair of the Rural Safety Working Group. And oftentimes we get a bit hectic to the end, and you have always been there coming through with assistance that has got us out of trouble and over the line, so I very, very much appreciate that. And just wish you well on your new appointment, and we're certainly going to miss you here. So that's one. Worship, I'm going to throw the second one. Quickly, Carols Under the Stars at Habana on Saturday the 21st.
Bringing sand in this time around?
No, that's for Australia Day.
Oh, it's Australia.
Australia Day. So, but we have got a permit to run the event this time, Your Worship. So Council has given us an event permit, so we are fine. So I'd like to really invite yourself, staff, and all directors and families to come out to the event. But also, in closing, just the final one was yesterday morning. Councillor G, the Deputy Mayor himself, attended the opening of the BP service station at Northern Beaches. It's quite special in my opinion because it's a privately owned business. They're based in Bundaberg, the Wessels family, and they came up there. They spent approximately $8.5 million on the site, and they are really the sort of business that I would personally like to promote. As a small business, they're opening service stations. They're now looking at moving up to Townsville to do the same thing. So they're going straight up there from here. But to have that confidence in our Northern Beaches area, I think is something that we really do need, and I congratulated them for that on behalf of Council, because that's what'll bring the Northern Beaches alive, is businesses like that, developing community hubs such as that, and it is a quality service station, so I really would like to congratulate the Wessels family on that.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonventura. Any further late business? Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended the North Queensland Sports Foundation Board meeting last Friday, and of course the North Queensland Games for Townsville came up, and so far they reckon they've got 40 odd sports lined up, and they've said 6,000, and I just laughed. But anyway, we'll see what happens. They are really going out hard for it. But one thing, the CEO up there, Stephen Farrell, he said, could I pass on his thanks to Bridget? He said, I wish I had the organising committee that I had down in Mackay doing it up here in Townsville. He said, there's just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and the work that Bridget and her team did, nothing was too difficult. Everything got done, and they're very appreciative of that, and they wish they had that there again now. So he passes on his best wishes also to Bridget and her future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Casey. Is there any further late business? Councillor May.
I'd like another go if that's okay.
Right, okay.
Only really to say I wasn't able to attend the staff awards because we were over at Matsura, but I really just wanted to pass on my congratulations to the staff for all of the work they've done over the last 12 months, the directors, the managers, the CEO. Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and say farewell to Bridget, our director, who will be leaving us in January. I've enjoyed working with you over the years, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Any further late business? Councillor Engler.
Sorry, Worship, just one more thing. I didn't get my hand up quick enough. Deputy Mayor Amanda Cam, myself and Ariel attended the first screening of Keith Payne's documentary at Sorbello's on Saturday. It was really well done. Ray Martin was back again to promote it as well as the producer. We got the first look and sat through the whole thing. I really encourage anyone once that's released to have a look at it. Most of the family, Keith's family, were there, and they were really appreciative of council representation at that point.
Thanks, Councillor Engler. Further late business? Fantastic. We have 4 items of confidential reports. I suppose the proposed strategic lens purchase was the most talked about one. We've had several briefings. We've circulated that. No real questions have gone unanswered now from the CEO. Is there any reason to go into confidential mode?
I've got a question in relation to one of the other.
Okay, would somebody like to move that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with the law? Okay, Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Engler. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.